Superman snapped my arrows because I won't marry him. He's committing the perfect murder. No witnesses in outer space.
It is very cold in space.
This Lois Lane comic is an emotional roller coaster, and that's saying something. Lois getting married to people who aren't Superman can take many forms. We've had imaginary tales, warped morality plays, sometimes where it's Superman in disguise teaching her a lesson. Men who were secretly evil. Or aliens, but not the same type of alien as Superman. Into all of this wades an emotionally fraught two-parter that, aside from featuring one of the great classic Silver Age covers, this issue also takes the tropes of the Lois Lane getting married to other person oeuvre at this point, and combines them in such a way that will leave you feeling concerned. That being about the return to the status quo at the end, it'll be like, yay? I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and we're gonna take a look at an issue of Superman's Girlfriend Lois Lane, a story that begins in issue number 80, with a tale that's called Get Out of My Life, Superman. This comes to us from the year 1968, and it's written by Superman's Girlfriend Lois Lane staple, Leo Dorfman, with art by the Lois Lane MVP, Kurt Schaffenberger. Now, the cover for 80 might not stand out right away like the cover for 81, but it's got a lot going for it too. Little clever things, like the fact that Lois has ripped the girlfriend part out of the title and is throwing it to the ground as the cover proclaims, "At last, the impossible comes true. It's Splitsville for Lois and Superman." At last, huh? But wait, it gets better. For years, her devoted fans have asked, why doesn't Lois Lane call off her hopeless romance with Superman? Well, it happens at last. Lois douses the torch she's been carrying for so long. Changing her name and her career, Lois starts afresh, determined to forget the Man of Steel. Now finally, she can say, "Get out of my life, Superman." Yes, Lois dear, this is where we'll build our little dream house. Rand, darling, I can hardly wait.
What a fool I was to ignore Lois all these years. Now she's changed her name, her career, and even started a new romance. Face it, I'm out of her life forever. Sad Superman in the bushes is amazing.
Now, the best part about the opening narration above that teaser is that it's true. There are lots of letters asking just that. If you've been following this playlist where we look at a lot of these stories, it's not surprising. Both of these characters treat each other horrendously in these tales. And the levels that Silver Age Superman goes to sometimes in them is something special. As for this tale, it opens on a surprise birthday party for Lois Lane. Her friends are there, her co-workers, her sister. Clark's not, but that doesn't bother her. But there's someone who's not being there does bother her. Superman. Even her friends are aware that this is an oversight, a faux pas, but they're also used to him treating her badly, so they prepared for this eventuality. Lucy and Jimmy had a mock present ready. Specifically Jimmy. He came with an extra present and is prepared to forge a note and Superman's signature concerning that he can forge that and then give it to her so she won't be upset. Nice try, gang, but I know Superman never sent this gift. You see, he gave me gold statuettes of his hero pals just last Christmas. He did? But why though? Merry Christmas! Here are little gold statues of my friends. Lois is convinced that he will show up, so she stays even after the party wraps up, after everybody leaves, until the hotel cleaning staff tell her that she has to go. She's talked herself into the idea that he must be saving somebody. Something really important must have happened. He wouldn't just miss her birthday, they're girlfriend and boyfriend or something. That's what the cover tells me. It sounds plausible. Of course he has Superman things to do, but then she finds him 2 blocks away. Suddenly, at a nearby corner, Superman, what are you doing here?
Hi Lois, I'm helping the Beautify Metropolis campaign by cleaning up this auto wrecking yard. I'm compressing these old heaps into scrap metal cubes.
When she confronts him about the fact that her party was 2 blocks away, he says he just forgot. This sends her into genuine hysterics. He offers to fly her home. She is not interested. She's so angry. This is the thing that just breaks her. She's humiliated. She feels that everybody must have known that she was wasting her time for all these years. Poor Lucy was saying that she wouldn't marry Jimmy until Lois married Superman.
Listen, Lucy, you can just tell Jimmy you don't want to be with him. You don't need to say it up like that.
Lois is convinced everyone was laughing at her. She can't even bring herself to go to work. She's so depressed and embarrassed. She tells Perry that yes, she'll take him up on his offer to take some time off and go away. But what he doesn't know is that she plans to go away forever. She empties her accounts, goes and gets some hot clothes. She does not get a haircut because there was a whole discussion in the comments about which haircut she could get, so she just got this one recently and it's not changing. But she does tell her sister that she's leaving. She's leaving Metropolis, she's changing her name, she's donating her Superman souvenirs to charity, even though Lucy's thought bubble shows she's gonna keep them because she doesn't believe her and she thinks that Lois will change her mind. Lucy's just real passive aggressive like that, isn't she? Oh, Jimmy, I can't marry you until Lois marries Superman. Sorry. Anyway, Lucy, just keep those trophies away from Jimmy. He'll eat them. or use them to turn into a wolfman. Lois goes to a railway station and picks a city at random. Coral City. The man of might is watching with his telescopic vision.
Then it's true. Lois is leaving Metropolis, changing her name, starting a new career. And it's all my fault. Should I say something? Tell her my true feelings?
Could you stalk her a little less, Clark? How did you even hear that this was happening? She kept this a secret from most people.
No, a quick, clean break is best. After all I've put her through, she deserves the second chance to make something of her life. I've got to let her go.
And soon, goodbye, Metropolis. Goodbye to all my friends and dear ones. This is where Lois Lane bows out and Lois Lorne takes over. Good job, Lois. They'll never be expecting Lois Lorne. And note that she didn't ditch the LL, even though she's changing everything about her life. Even now, subconsciously, she still wants to be on Superman's radar. His hooks are in deep. Part 2. Oh yes, this story is a 3-parter leading up to a 2-parter in terms of overall issues. This needs to be broken up. There's so much story. That's how you know it's serious. Love comes to Lois Lorne. Now, this town she's moved to has a space center, but it's also a tiny town, just over 5,000 people. But mostly pay attention because there's a rocket launching. Keep the space center in mind. Lois goes to apply for a job as a nurse because she had taken courses in Metropolis. And some quick thinking when there's a problem in the queue proves to the doctors that she's the kind of person who can think on her feet and they want her, and so they hire her. Shockingly, this Dr. Culver is not her new love interest. We haven't gone full telenovela yet. Instead, we take some time establishing that Lois really is good at her job and she's well liked, and she's starting to enjoy it too. She's healing. Slowly. Yes, I'm happy in my new life, especially since I'm thinking less and less about Superman. Come to think of it, I haven't thought about him in nearly an hour. A whole hour. There's some deep trauma there. But I mean, in canon, it's been weeks, and also in her thoughts, she hasn't thought about Superman for 60 minutes. It's time to introduce a new man. By Lois Lane standards, we're already running late. Meet Commander Kirby, an astronaut. They say he's the handsomest astronaut on base. They really do. And you know that puts people on Lois's radar. Handsome is up there battling it out with superpowered. She meets him because of a launch gone wrong. And this Rand Kirby has to eject and is injured in the crash. He's in shock and need a transfusion. Luckily, his dog tag lists his blood type. I'll go down to the blood bank, doctor. Poor fellow. So handsome, so tall, yet so helpless. Now, the Silver Age is full of shenanigans, yes. But note how even in a tale like this, it took the time to establish the base and Lois's credentials and set the tone. A lot of times when people discuss the Silver Age, they overemphasize the wackiness and the what is going on factor. But a lot of times those are moments or covers taken largely out of context of the entire story that they hail from. Inside those stories, lots of times there's still an adherence to the rules at play at the time, an attempt to maintain cohesion and provide rationales for why things are happening, even if they are a bit more outlandish. And lots of times attempts to subvert the code are clever rather than irreverent. Not to mention there's a different target demographic to the current era, time of recording. Just in general, there's a different vibe and energy if you read stories from the Silver Age and then stories that are attempting to or are claiming to attempt to replicate it. Better, worse, miles will vary, but definitely different. It's just been on my mind a lot since the Pregnant Joker vid, where there were a lot of people likening it to, oh, it's just like the Silver Age. I can see perhaps that those stories want to have the energy of the Silver Age, but the way they go about it is entirely different. The Joker backup stories, including the one where that occurred, are absurdist humor backups, not really trying to maintain internal coherence, but just present a lot of wacky. Also, again, presented through the lens of absurdism, which is very different than what's going on in the Silver Age. The Joker backup story feels more like the modern perception of the Silver Age rather than the Silver Age in actuality. The idea of what the Silver Age was, the way it's remembered, all of those silly covers and silly moments. Sorry, tangent, it's just been on my mind. And what better place to talk about than Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane. Anyway, of course, Lois has the same blood type as Commander Kirby. She's there to do the blood transfusion and save his life. Rand wants to thank her, and when he does, he's charming. Actually, please call me Rand. After all, with your blood flowing in my veins, there's a sort of special bond between us. All right, Rand. He's so charming, I'm tingling all over. In the days that follow, a new romance blossoms for Lois. I'm going back to base tomorrow, but promise you'll see me again, Lois, or I'll have a relapse just to get back to you. Of course, Rand. I was hoping you'd ask. Our country's handsomest astronaut, and he likes me. Soon, Lois and her new flame are seen everywhere together. Honey, in that go-go outfit, you're the most dazzling dish on the floor. I just love that rush act of his. Can Rand be the one who will knock Superman out of my thoughts? What's a rush act? Is she saying that he has Riz? Is that what that means? Why this romance is progressing healthily and at a reasonable pace? Am I reading the right comic? Don't worry, Clark is coming in to make it weird. Clark is not handling Lois being gone at all. Not as Clark Kent and not as Superman. Without her, his job is boring, and he keeps thinking he's seeing her everywhere, jumping to the aid of random women who kind of look like Lois and turn out that it's not her, and he's disappointed every time. He also doesn't know where she is, despite the fact that he was watching her leave at the train station. I guess he wasn't up to par on his stalking that day. He didn't check to see which train it was. Part 3, the jealous Superman. Now remember, this town has a space center, which means it has a plausible reason that there could be some kind of assignment or story to send Clark on, and that's what happens. He gets sent over there for something called the Venus Project.
No, it is Lois. Doll, you don't know how glad I am to see you.
Of all people, Clark Kent? And just when things were going so smoothly. Clark, what are you doing here? I like that Lois is so unfazed by anything that Clark is doing that she doesn't even blink at him calling her doll. It's just, oh my gosh, Clark's here. She tells him that she's here to forget Superman. Her name is Lois Lane now. Don't ruin this for her. My new boyfriend, Commander Rand Kirby.
The famous space jockey, eh? But as Superman, I still have the inside track with Lois.
Wow, Clark, wow. Rand is thrilled to be an old friend of Lois's and makes sure that he gets taken to the space center, that he meets all the important people, that he gets all the best interviews. He invites him out with them when they're going out to dinner or to the beach, not jealous or concerned at all. Who does he think he is? Where does he think he is? This is Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane. Superman is worried that Lois really is starting to forget him. She just only has eyes for Rand. They're having a great time together. But maybe if he can force her to have some kind of confrontation or encounter with Superman, he can change that. There's only one problem. There's no danger happening currently in this place. But you know what that looks like? A job for Superman. So he kicks up a major wave on the surf so that a surfer will fall and be in danger of sharks, and he can save her. And then Lois will become upset, fall in love with him again. Yes, true love. So he goes out there and beats up some sharks. What lady doesn't like that? He's punching sharks right in the face. That's what we want. Sounds like some terrible TikTok advice. Your lady wants to see you punch a shark. Now, this seems like it's gone well, but as he changes back into Clark, he gets hit by a piece of the debris that he caused, and now he has to pretend that he's injured. And so Rand has to save him. When Clark is dragged ashore,
not a bad rescue, Rand. Of course, it wasn't as terrific as Superman's life-saving.
I know you're Superman's friend, but how could you be so ungrateful? Superman's invulnerable. He risked nothing when he attacked those sharks, but Rand rescued you without superpowers. He's a real hero.
Looks like she's really hung up on this guy. I just wasted a great performance.
You know, what's the point of punching sharks if nobody appreciates it? Clark has to go back to Metropolis, and this Rand relationship is still going strong. He's talking about how he wants to propose to her. He takes her to where he would build their dream house. He's not blindsiding her, he's involving her in every step of the process, making it quite clear where he thinks their relationship is going and where he wants it to go. He's just a nice man, and this can only end badly for Rand Kirby. Sure enough, the Space Center is beset by a spy, and when Rand is nearly shot, Lois reverts to type and wishes aloud that Superman were there. Rand thinks that that's a great idea. They should call in Superman. He can deal with their spy problem. Superman comes down to deal with it, and he's just thrilled that Lois thought of him. That means that she's still thinking about him. He's still in her brain. And you know what that means? She's not over him. He still has a chance. Soon, it's Superman. He's bringing the captured spy to the prison ward. He mustn't see me. Gotta hide. But the Man of Steel's X-ray vision locates Lois quickly, and with the prisoner safely in custody.
Lois, thank heavens I found you. Superman, why'd you have to show up? Must you hound me like this? And I'd almost gotten you out of my system.
This scene is pretty intense. Lois is reacting like someone who's in a very toxic relationship. Her tone, her stance, the way she's just cowering back from him, it comes across like she's terrified of him. And if not terrified of him, terrified of the person she becomes when she's with him. And his response does not help.
But you suggested they call me. You wanted to see me.
No, I'm sick of you messing up my existence. I'm through chasing you. I'm not gonna start that endless merry-go-round again. Get out of my life, Superman! Lois is so desperate to get him to leave that she pretends to fall and inject herself with sodium pentothal. She knows Superman will take the opportunity to question her while he thinks she's under the influence, and then maybe, since then he'll believe she's telling the truth, she can get him to leave. She just injected herself with water, because who's actually gonna inject themselves with truth serum? Actually, I could have seen her doing that, so I'm a bit surprised.
Lois, you must answer me honestly. You said you wanted to get me out of your life. Is that really true?
Yes. You've ignored me, hurt me, humiliated me too many times. There's someone else now. He's handsome, charming, and he's devoted to me. Feel like the order of those should have been switched around, but no, handsome. Rand and I will build a wonderful life together.
Then it's true. There's no room in her heart for me anymore. I'll leave. When she wakens, I'll be out of her life. For good.
I had to get him to leave. He had his chance and threw it away. Now I want mine. A chance for the happiness I've always dreamed of. Has Lois finally quenched the torch she's carried all these years? For the answer, read the next issue of Lois Lane, or should we say Lois Lorne? Lois Kirby? This issue went so hard. This was nail-biting, edge-of-your-seat emotional action. The drama, the suspense, the betrayal. This issue wants you to believe that Lois and Superman are done. She still loves him, but she can't be with him. They're bad for each other. He can't live without her, though. It's driving him mad. Rand is a good man. I'm so sorry you're in this, Rand. Okay, issue 81. Now you have to put them back together and make me believe. Rails, where we're going. We don't need rails. No witnesses in outer space. Lois Lane has changed her name, her city, and her job. Yet who knows what new twists her life may take when she gains the power to read minds and see the future, especially when she embarks on a shock, a second voyage into the void to a rendezvous with sudden death. And who could testify against the killer since there are no witnesses in outer space? Same creative team, go! This one has a Neil Adams cover. The last one was Neil Adams and Kurt Swan. You can see if you leave Neil Adams alone, the madness goes up at least 5 points. Speaking of madness, that's what Clark is slowly descending into. He just can't get Lois out of his mind. He's even writing her name in the headlines of articles that he's writing. He decides that the problem is that he never let her know how he felt about her as Superman. He needs to tell her that he truly cares, so he writes her a heartfelt letter and puts it in a little UFO thing and throws it to where she's living. Lois is excited at first and falls right back into old habits, wondering if he'll propose. But then she gets hold of herself and her spine and her convictions. That was not her spine, that was like her chest. Her spine's back here. She grabs her bosom. Where's your pride? Show you have a little iron in your backbone. Don't read that letter. Just tear it up into confetti to celebrate the fact that Superman's out of the picture for good. Meanwhile, Clark is watching with his telescopic vision.
She's ripping my letter to shreds. How she must despise Superman. But it's what I deserve after the way I've shoved her into the background of my life.
Lois does try and put it back together out of the trash, but she then decides, no, really, she's gotta leave it alone. She's gonna be Mrs. Rand Kirby. He's handsome. Okay, so that didn't work. You know whose fault this really is? It's not his own fault, even though he just said it was. It's the city's fault, and they're cleaning up Metropolis campaign. Clark has a solution for that. Time travel. What if he goes back and never misses her party? Then everything will be perfect. Things will go back to him not marrying her and her pining after him. Brilliant. So he travels back in time to Lois's birthday so that he won't miss it. He'll crush the cars at super speed, but in doing so he's in such a rush that he nearly drives them into the Earth's core, which sets off a whole chain of events that he has to deal with that culminate in him still missing her birthday party and her finding him in the exact same position. So he stops nothing, and in the present, things are going great. Rand is now bringing his parents down to meet Lois, and Lois is very excited, but first her and Dr. Culver have to go and do this super secret medical experiment at the prison. It'll be fine. Spoilers, it's not fine. Culver wants to test something called mind gas on the dangerous inmates. It's got a 50-50 shot of curing them of their murderous urges or killing them. The inmates agree, but of course it's to stage a breakout. Lois holds her own for a bit. She'd been taught a Kryptonian fighting method while she was living in Kandor, but she gets tripped up and of course is hit with the mind gas. It turns out that it doesn't do either of the two things that Culver proposed. Instead, Lois can now read minds, specifically Superman's. And she sees that what he says, how he treats her, and what he thinks are two different things. So he's there scolding her for being ridiculous and putting herself in danger, but inside he just wishes he could kiss her. Now Lois has the power. She holds the cards, and that means we get patented evil Kurt Schaffenberger Lois face. I'm supposed to be grateful for the big rescue, eh? How often must I tell you to stay out of my life? You know I've started a new career, a new romance.
Stop playing games. Give up this ridiculous Lois Lord masquerade and come back to Metropolis. You're living a lie. You don't love Rand Kirby and you know it.
Don't say one word against Rand. Maybe he's not super, but I won't waste my years waiting for him to marry me. Ha! That remark hits Superman where it hurts. Let's see what he's thinking now. As Lois tunes in on the Man of Might's thoughts.
My darling, if you only knew the secret dream I've treasured all these years.
Lois can see that Superman does want to marry her, and he really does worry she'll be hurt by his enemies. And then the mind-reading power just leaves her, but it's fine. She knows what she needs to now. She doesn't think maybe that she was under the influence of something called mind gas, and those could have been hallucinations. No, 100% real and credible. Not just her wish fulfillment because she's not over him. They were real, and it means that even though Superman treats her terribly, he loves her. She can't marry Rand, who she acknowledges is at this moment just reorganizing everything everything but his future plans in his life so that they can be together and have a life together. That night, when Lois goes to meet Rand's parents, she experiences a premonition of a waiter dropping a tray, and so she catches it. The mind gas did that too. Is Dr. Culver just a mad scientist? What is he working on? What's happening at this hospital? She tells Rand about this ESP, not how she got it, but that she's experiencing it. And he's unfazed and just believes her and then cheerfully says that she must be able to guess what he's about to give her. He had his mom come down because he wanted to get her heirloom bracelet, which is passed down to the newest bride in his family. It's his way of proposing to her. Now Lois feels Rand is too happy to tell him that she wants to break up. Rand has to go on a space mission up in something called the Gemini capsule, and he's going to be going up there with a robot co-pilot. And later, Lois overhears that a mysterious probe is floating through space collecting minerals. This causes her to have another premonition. Superman going to check out the probe, which is full of kryptonite. Frantic, Lois phones Rand. Rand, I tell you, the kryptonite in that space probe may kill Superman, but you can save him with the Gemini rocket. Lois, I've seen your mental powers at work. I believe you. Come over. I'll do what I can. Now Rand may believe her, but the generals and his higher ups, they need more convincing. She of course ends up being right, and they end up sending Rand up in the probe to try and save Superman. But Lois sees something else when Rand goes up there. His lifeline gets damaged and he dies. As the vision fades, so long Lois, wish me luck. How can I tell him that disaster is waiting for him? If he tries to save Superman, he may die. I mean, it would be pretty easy to tell him if you loved him, since he believes your abilities and has just seen them be right. So the fact that you're keeping it from him means that you think it's more important that he save Superman. Superman was right. You don't love Rand. The two of you deserve each other. Lois decides the best course of action is to replace the robot co-pilot. She's just gonna go up there into space. And she goes up and rushes out there to save Superman, who she's calling darling and the like over the comm, which is open so Rand can hear her. Gripped by emotions, Lois pours forth her innermost thoughts. Dear heaven, let him live. I want to tell him how sorry I am for hurting him. So I want to tell him I'm coming back to Metropolis as the girl he used to know. Lois Lane. The cover kinda happens. Lois thinks Superman is ripping her and Rand's lines in a fit of jealous rage, but in actuality it's got tangled up. Lois doesn't have to face any consequence with Rand because he is just the most emotionally balanced man in the universe. But Rand, I have something to say to you. You said over your helmet mic up there in space, you're Superman's girl. You didn't really love me, but could we say goodbye with one last kiss? This feels bad. Shortly, the Man of Steel flies Lois back to Metropolis.
Honey, it'll be wonderful having you back again.
Wonderful is the word, especially now that I know he really loves me. What a ride. The second part had to pull out all the stops to get them back together. Time travel, mind gas, ESP, space drama, kryptonite. While all it took for them to break up was for Superman to act like himself and Lois to acknowledge that maybe he doesn't treat her very well. His worries for her may be very real. They do not justify his crazed shenanigans to avoid marrying her. Although in all fairness, this was a much more even keel Lois than we normally get in these stories. Usually she can go just as hard as him in trying to entrap him. I spent a large portion of these issues waiting for some weird kind of twist involving Rand. I've been so trained based on the other issues that's what's happening. I was waiting for him to somehow be Superman just because that's happened. It was a Superman robot or something. I was waiting for him to be evil or from the future. Just the entire time I was like, okay, when's the Rand twist to make this feel less awful? No, he was just nice. That makes this outing so much more painful. Those glimpsed thoughts are meant to make Lois going back to Superman all worthwhile. But when you contrast it with how hard she had to try and how much she had to change to get away from him, it just feels like she relapsed. Clark was willing to sacrifice a woman to sharks to get her attention. This one is interesting in that it takes a different approach, in that we have Lois actively trying to get over and away from Superman. Actually, it's not just that she's trying to make him jealous or any of those things. She really wants him gone. It also presents more of Superman's feelings for her. It ends up making their relationship an unhealthy hot mess, but also a highly entertaining one. Are you not entertained? The first half is more solid than the second. 80 is more like an emotional drama. 81 dials up the wacky shenanigans, largely to find ways to get Superman involved and the two back together. It still explains all the whys of what's happening, but it does feel a bit like it's a pivot from the first one, which was more grounded. This one left an impression. I was on the edge of my seat. This is going up there with Titan Man and Lois turns evil and marries Lex. Where does this rank for you on the Lois getting married list? Or if this was your first venture into this realm, what do you think? Entertaining? Enjoyable? Horrifying? Justice for Rand? Are you worried about Lois? Do you just need this high-key level of emotional drama in comics now? The Silver Age just not for you? Tell me things down below while you're down there. Please will YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time today to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.